Okay, last time in our Zoom call, we talked about the shareholder view of the purpose of business. Okay, and if you recall from that Zoom call, Milton Friedman, a very famous economist, thinks that the purpose of business, well, let me ask you guys were paying attention, I'm sure. Who am I going to pick on? It's going to be Emily, because Emily came first to the classroom, so she's probably organized. What did we say was the purpose of business according to Milton Friedman?
If I'm sure it was to keep on.
Do I need to go to somebody else?
Yes.
Okay, who knows? Yes, Spencer. Do what the owners desire. That's correct. And for the most part, what the owners desire is to make money. Okay, at least Friedman thinks that that's the case. All right. So the purpose of business is to act in accordance with the wishes of the owners, especially the wishes of the owners for financial gain. I mentioned at the very end of our Zoom call session last time that the alternative view of the purpose of business, and again, we're not talking about individual purposes, we're talking about a collective purpose here, the purpose of a business as an enterprise. The alternative view is called the stakeholder view. Okay, the shareholder view sees the owners as the primary recipients of the gains of business, and the alternative view is the stakeholder view. Okay, so if you think about businesses in terms of the stakeholder view, a diagram might be useful here. Okay, so the reason why businesses exist is because when humans work together in teams, they are more efficient at doing things than when they try to work on their own. Okay, and so there are efficiency gains by virtue of humans working together in teams. Okay, and we might say the efficiency gain could be conceived of in terms of a pie. Okay, and just for to be really crass, let's think of it as a monetary pie. And according to the stakeholder view, there are a variety of different stakeholders that are deserving of a piece of the pie. Okay, so the purpose of business, according to the stakeholder view, is to bring about gains or benefits, including especially financial benefits, prosperity benefits, remuneration benefits, to the different stakeholders, all of whom have contributed to the pie, to make the pie that is an efficient business. Okay, and again, we're speaking kind of ideally here. One such stakeholder group for sure is the owners. They are deserving of a piece of the pie, and that would be in accordance with Friedman's view. Okay, so the stakeholder view is not entirely opposed to the shareholder view. It just gives the owners a place alongside other stakeholders rather than primacy of place. Okay, but similarly, also stakeholders are employees. Okay, customers. These are the participants who are immediately involved in the day-to-day enterprise. More peripherally, but also still involved, are suppliers, community, and government. Let me talk you through each one of these and why they are deserving of a piece of the profit pie. Okay, the owners pony up the capital. They provide the necessary financial means for the business to function. As such, they are deserving of some of the efficiency gains, speaking monetarily. The employees, quite obviously, are necessary because the business would be unable to function on a day-to-day basis without them. Demand from the customers makes the product something that it is profitable for businesses to produce. As such, the customers are a deserving stakeholder. The suppliers provide the raw goods that the business then finishes, or the raw services that the business then refines. The community gives the business a variety of different forms of support. Maybe that takes the form of education of the employees who then come into the business enterprise with skills, okay, thus benefiting the business. Government, as I've mentioned before, provides a context within which it is stable for business to operate, a legal framework that businesses can rely upon, or maybe that takes the form of defense against potential nefarious agents, or maybe that takes the form of infrastructure provision, logistics, transportation, other kinds of provisions that enable businesses to function more successfully. Okay, all of these stakeholders on the stakeholder view are deserving of a piece of the profit pie. So the purpose of business on the stakeholder view then is to benefit the stakeholders. The purpose of business is to bring about a better state of affairs for the stakeholders so that they are better off than they would otherwise be. Okay, maybe that better off means more prosperous, maybe that better off means a higher standard of living, maybe that better off means better technologies, or whatever it means. It just means that the purpose of business is to benefit the stakeholders, to bring about a better state of affairs for the stakeholders. All right, now the stakeholder view has a variety of adherents, but it does have some detractors as well, including especially some critics. But let me stop before I talk about criticisms. I'm going to be motoring through the view kind of quickly today, so please do stop me if you're not understanding any parts of it. Before I talk about criticisms of the stakeholder view, are there any questions about the nature of the view or the structure of the view? Okay, criticism number one. In fact, we'll probably camp mostly on this criticism. It is too idealistic. Too idealistic. The stakeholder view says that everybody who's up here as a stakeholder is deserving of a piece of the profit pie. And on this first criticism, real-world business doesn't work that way. Real-world business enterprises are usually scenes of power struggle, where certain groups engage in power struggles with other groups within companies so as to obtain the largest piece of that company's profit pie that they can. At least so the critics would say. Okay, let's take a couple of businesses as an example of how this view might be too idealistic. Okay, and I'm thinking here in monetary terms about who gets benefited from the business model. Okay, if you think of a very famous retail enterprise, Walmart, the owners are the shareholders, since Walmart is a publicly owned company. Do the shareholders make off well financially from Walmart's business model? Yes. Yes, they do. Okay, Walmart has been a very successful dividend stock. It's also seen an enormous amount of capital appreciation over the years, although not in the last several years because of a variety of different factors, mostly centered around the frenzy in the tech sector. Okay, but yes, it has been a very good stock for owners, and yes, the owners do benefit substantially from Walmart's financial model. Employees, do they benefit from the structure of the Walmart model? Depends on who you are, right? So management certainly does. Walmart is, for ordinary store-level employees, probably one of the worst places to work, given their skills and given their other options. Okay, so I would say employees, at least the lower-level employees at Walmart, tend to be losers in the intra-company power struggle over the allocation of profits. Okay, Walmart is notorious for working their workers 29 hours a week, so they don't have to pay healthcare benefits, so the workers don't qualify as full-time. They do a variety of other tactics. Walmart does great good in employing a bunch of people who would not be employable elsewhere. Okay, so elderly, ex-prisoners, right, a variety of people who are not employable elsewhere. People whose English skills aren't very good. Okay, but Walmart at the same time does tend to try to exploit those employees to the utmost. if they are store level employees. Now, that's not true necessarily for management. Management is kind of treated differently at Walmart. Okay, customers, do they make off well financially for the Walmart model? Yes, very much so. Okay, Walmart sells products that you could find at most other big box retailers, but they sell them more cheaply than those other retailers. Their main competitor is Target, although Amazon to some extent, right, in fact, to an enormous extent with the online business that has boomed. Is Walmart providing cheaper prices than Target? Definitely. For the same goods? Yes. Cheaper prices than Amazon? Mostly, probably. They probably are mostly cheaper than Amazon in those products.
They're around the same price.
Around the same price? It probably depends on the product, actually. So I have been noticing, if you ever want to shop on Amazon, you should always use camel first, right? Because that's the way you can see what the history of the price is on the product that you're looking at. So that way you can, if you know you need to wait a month for the price to go down, you can just like wait another month or something like that. And if you compare using that tool, the prices on Amazon with the prices on Walmart, the prices on Amazon's website have been going up comparatively over the last several years compared to those on Walmart. So I think it is true, Keisha, that on some goods they are still cheaper, but I think on a lot of goods Amazon's actually using their market share power to try to squeeze out a few more dollars in terms of profits by raising prices. Okay, suppliers. Probably depends on the supplier. For the most part, though, Walmart is notorious for not treating their suppliers well. Okay, especially their Chinese suppliers. Walmart has an enormous amount of market power because it's such a large corporation. They use this to try to negotiate with suppliers who are usually much smaller than they are, and there are power asymmetries in these negotiations. The suppliers often are driven out of business, actually, but they don't really have any other choice because it's either work with Walmart for very low prices for their raw products or else, because Walmart's market power is that great. Community, Walmart does give back a lot to the community. They have generally supported conservative political causes, although these days they mostly have tried to remove themselves from the political aspect of community involvement. They're very much involved in Bentonville and Arkansas and throughout Arkansas where they are located. Government, Walmart is a pretty typical big retail company in that they try to avoid all their taxes as much as possible, although they do not do as much as some of the tech companies do, which I do appreciate. I think that that's something to be commended. Okay, let's check Apple and see how they do on these kinds of metrics. Again, we're thinking in terms of who makes off well from the profit pie. Okay, shareholders. Yeah, hugely, right? Okay, Apple's been an enormously successful stock, great dividend, massively benefited. Employees. Yes, right? Apple, yes, maybe, actually. I should put an asterisk by that. All of Apple's American employees do very well. Okay, Apple corporate make great money. Apple retail make good money. Okay, they make very good money, in fact, for the level of skill that they bring to the table and the other opportunities that they have. Apple's affiliate employees, and this is shading over to some extent into suppliers, Apple's affiliate employees in China, who are proxy employees through Foxconn and other kinds of supplier organizations, are working in notoriously bad conditions for notoriously low wages. So if you are not an American, you don't necessarily make off very well from the Apple business model. Okay, we'll talk more about that later this semester. Customers, do they profit financially from the Apple business model?
No.
Not at all, right? Apple is an incredibly expensive product for the kind of thing that you're getting. You can get just as much computing power for about 40% less if you go to competitors. Okay, but Apple's a brand name, and what you're paying for is a luxury brand and status, the status that comes with having an iPhone of a certain kind, like the latest possible iPhone or whatever. You guys want to see an antique? This is a 4S. Do you know these even function still?
I have an
You have an Android? Okay, so you're just trying to like be uppity now. Okay. So customers, I would say, do not make off well from the Apple business model. Okay. They pay through the nose for the sake of the brand name. Although Apple does have a good reputation for good service. Okay, if your products break down, Apple has a very good reputation for providing you with extensive service, but you do pay through the nose for it. Okay, suppliers, Apple treats their suppliers like trash. Community, Apple gives a lot to the community. Okay, that has changed over the years. Under Steve Jobs, they gave nothing. Steve Jobs notoriously never gave a penny to charity. He thought that charity was wasteful. Okay, he was kind of evil, but he was really innovative and creative too, so that's a good thing. But really selfish and evil. Okay, but under Tim Cook, Apple has given a lot to the community. They support left-wing political causes in contrast to Walmart. Okay, they're really involved in California politics especially, but they also do other things like support affordable housing and other kinds of poverty-stricken things, which are like more general-purpose community-building efforts. Government, Apple is notoriously a tax dodger. They're actually an Irish-based company domiciled in the Caymans, okay, which is a structure that enables them to avoid almost all American corporate taxes, which is kind of a notorious tax dodge. But it's not illegal. It is just very aggressive in their interpretation of the tax code. Okay, maybe the answer there is to close up the loopholes that they use. The criticism here is that stakeholder views are too idealistic, and that in practice, if you look at companies, they are more often scenes of power struggle and not equitable sharing of profits between and among the different participants in the company, the different stakeholders in the business enterprise. Okay, let me stop and ask for questions or comments. Okay. Yes. So the criticism, this first criticism that we looked at here, is that the stakeholder view does not accurately describe the way business really operates in the real world. It is too idealistic in saying that the purpose of business is to share profits or benefits in some sort of equitable manner among a variety of different stakeholders. In real-world business, there are power struggles, and in real-world business, some stakeholders benefit at the expense of others. Okay, and in real-world business, it's not an equitable sharing among happy stakeholders. Rather, it's usually a struggle inside of businesses for the profit pie. Okay, so that's the criticism, is that it's not accurate to real-world business. Other questions or comments? Okay, I do want to mention some other criticisms, but I actually, I'm going to shelve that now because I'm trying to rush through some things today. So let's just mention this one criticism today, and I'm going to do a case study. Okay? All right. On the Friedman-based view, the shareholder view of the purpose of business, I mentioned in the Zoom call that for Friedman, Milton Friedman, the business is justified in community involvement if doing so is what the owners desire, and especially if doing so is something that will bring about profits to the owners. Okay, but not all businesses are actually run that way. And I want to share with you guys a case study of a business that's run very differently than that. Okay, so let me run this case study. Everybody is familiar with Starbucks, of course, and most of us are customers. Raise your hand if you are a Starbucks customer. Sometimes. Okay, so it's real expensive coffee. I understand, and college students can't always afford that, so there's that. Once you get a job and make some money and start getting into the coffee before work lifestyle, which so many Americans are. Well, I'll tell you what, my dad for years has picked up a Starbucks before work, and my mom has looked at the price tag of this, and she has offered to actually purchase for his birthday a Starbucks making coffee machine, so he can like get it just like they make it at Starbucks. And he always responds with, yes, but that's not like going into a Starbucks and getting a Starbucks. So apparently he likes the atmospherics very much. Okay, here's a quote from the website. Our stores are a neighborhood gathering place for meeting friends and family. Our customers enjoy quality service, an inviting atmosphere, and an exceptional beverage. Okay, so they want you to linger. That's an important part of their business model, is to bring people in and to involve them as a kind of a community gathering place. Some other quotes from the website. We believe in treating our partners with respect and dignity. We are proud to offer 2 landmark programs for our partners: comprehensive health coverage for eligible full and part-time partners, and equity in the company through Beanstalk. Okay, it's a kind of a code word that they use for Starbucks shares. Starbucks is one of the best places to work if you are a college student. College students don't have degrees yet, so they don't have the gatekeeping work card that gets them into a bunch of skill level jobs. As such, you kind of have to take what is available, but of what is available, Starbucks is just about the best that you can get. Okay, great health benefits. That was one of Schultz's big goals over the years, along with, if you're there long enough, equity in the company. They also have tuition support if you've worked for them long enough. Okay, here's another quote. I am going to read this. We've always believed in serving the best coffee possible. It's our goal for all of our coffee to be grown under the highest standards of quality using ethical sourcing practices. Our coffee buyers personally travel to coffee farms in Latin America, Africa, and Asia to select high-quality beans. Okay, so Starbucks is very famous for their fair trade coffee practices. To provide developing world farmers with better prices than those farmers could otherwise get if it were an unregulated market. Okay, this company is a company-owned system, not a franchise system like Chick-fil-A, so all the Starbucks locations that you see, and they are everywhere, are company-owned. They're big on environment, big on community involvement. A couple words about their store products. They do a variety of different products. They're kind of a cult retail establishment for people who want to identify with the Starbucks brand. Okay, maybe not at the college student level, but definitely among corporate types. It's kind of a thing. Stakeholders, their top priority among their stakeholder classes is definitely their employees. Their suppliers also, though, are very highly valued. I'm going to race through this, and I'll let you guys read these slides on your own. Starbucks also, though, makes a very big thing out of environmental support. So they have a lot of support for certified coffee farms. That is, coffee farms that are doing things that are environmentally friendly. This company is generally very good for investors, although they are recession vulnerable because Starbucks is a luxury product. People tend to discard luxury products. If it's a choice between filling up the car with a little bit more gas or getting a Starbucks this morning, people will fill up the car with a little bit more gas. It's seen as an expensive product. There have been some controversies with the company over the decades. Okay, one such controversy is the company's progressive and secular social involvement. So, for instance, if you've been in America, some of us are international students. If you've been in America for any time at all, you quickly find out that Christmas has become a controversial thing in recent years. Okay, so I still say Merry Christmas, but Starbucks banned their employees from saying Merry Christmas. And so a bunch of Christians went into Starbucks stores and gave their names to the baristas as Merry Christmas. So the baristas had to say Merry Christmas, and it kind of became a thing. And the CEO of Starbucks, Howard Schultz, actually said that Christians are not welcome in their stores. Which you can't mean, because if that were the case, their business model would collapse. Anyway, Controversy surrounding holidays, Red Cup controversy. Let's look at a quick SWOT analysis. Very powerful brands, very powerful. Numerous locations, high brand awareness. When was the last time you saw a Starbucks ad? They don't have to. They don't have to run ads, right? It's like Tesla. The media runs ads for them, or the number of stores run ads for them. They don't have to run their own ads. Huge loyalty from customers. Their drinks are very expensive. Increasing competition. Okay, they have high operating costs at their stores, especially given the amount of health benefits that they give their employees. That's a high operating cost. Opportunities include global expansion. There are threats from cheaper alternatives, Dunkin' Donuts and McDonald's, for example. On the other hand, both of those have brands that are not associated with coffee, so I doubt if they're going to take much market share, even if their coffee is cheaper. I mean, what do you think of when you think of McDonald's, right? Greasy, fatty hamburgers, right? And like everybody, like ubiquitously, we all think greasy, fatty hamburgers. And I mean, that's great. Like if you want a greasy, fatty hamburger, you know where to get it, but you don't think coffee in contrast to Starbucks. Although McDonald's has been serving salads recently. We'll see how that actually goes for them. Okay, the Standards of Business Conduct booklet is a resource distributed to all Starbucks partners to help them make appropriate decisions at work. This has been essential to Starbucks business ethics success over the years. They were, in fact, given an award for being the world's most ethical company in 2016. Okay, this is not a company that is run by Christians, like Chick-fil-A, for instance, but I think it is a company that is very much run in accordance with principles of humanity, dignity, and respect, like Christians should be running their businesses as. Okay, and so I have a lot of respect for this business. This business is very much a counterexample to the Friedman-based view of the purpose of the business enterprise. Because quite clearly, Starbucks does not see as its purpose just making profits for the owners. Okay, Starbucks sees as an important part of its goals in the world, doing a variety of different things that actually make the world a better place, including helping developing world coffee farmers, helping college students pay for college, providing employees with good health care, and so forth. So I actually like this company a whole lot. I have never heard anything substantially wrong with this company, and I think that it's a good counterexample. My own preference is for the stakeholder view, not for the shareholder view, and I think it's a good counterexample to the shareholder view as to what the purpose of business ought to be. Okay, let me pause and see if there are any questions or comments about that. Kind of moving through a little bit quickly. Okay, a second criticism of the stakeholder view, that it is too cooperative, and cooperation is not something that necessarily works well in a capitalist enterprise. Let me describe what I mean by this. A long time ago, back in the 18th century, there was a dude who lived named Adam Smith. Adam Smith is known as the intellectual father of the capitalist economic system. He wrote a book called, the shortened title at least, is called The Wealth of Nations. It is kind of an inquiry into why some people groups become wealthy and others do not. Okay, and it's an enormous book. It's like 900 pages long. It's incredibly complex. Two ideas are central to the book, however. One idea is that specialization is the key to economic prosperity, and countries whose citizens engage in work tasks that are specialized tend to be more prosperous than those whose citizens do not. And I mentioned this on a Zoom call, but this is an important capitalist principle. Okay, and I'm not going to camp on it too long, but suffice to say that when we all focus on particular tasks rather than general tasks and do real well at those particular tasks, and then trade with each other for other things that we're not good at. The farmer trades for, he takes the profits that he makes from his farm and he buys someone to fix his air conditioner or to fix his tractor or something like that rather than trying to do it himself.
Isn't that bartering?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that bartering?
Bartering? Yeah, but the idea in capitalism is just if you specialize and then make profits and then trade those profits using money. Bartering is trade without money. So if you make profits and then use money to buy other things that you are not good at, such as fixing the tractor or the air conditioner or the the food stuff or whatever, like building a house, stuff like that, then you can be more prosperous than if you tried to be a generalist and do everything yourself. We could all build our own houses or grow our own food or something. It would be much harder to live that way. The second idea that is central to Wealth of Nations is the power of self-centered thinking. And this is probably the most controversial part of Wealth of Nations. And I think it's the most controversial part of a capitalist system from the perspective of a Christian. Okay, and I'm a Christian business ethicist. I do think you can be a Christian and a very successful Christian, both morally and also financially within a capitalist system, but it's quite difficult. And I do want to emphasize that capitalism is not synonymous with Christianity. And there are all sorts of incentives in capitalism to actually do things that are contrary to Christian moral teachings. One such incentive is arguably this idea here, self-centered thinking. Okay, why is self-centered thinking so powerful for Smith? Well, think of it this way. In a capitalist system, Smith said, you can get a bunch of different makers of shoes, we'll say. And these people all compete against each other, and in their efforts at competition, they only think about themselves. Okay, if you can set the system up so that they're all competing against each other, thinking only about themselves and doing that competition, then actually what will come about is a more prosperous society overall. That's why Smith says the self-centered thinking is powerful. What will actually come about is a more prosperous society overall. Why will that happen? Well, think about it. This shoemaking company or person wants to compete with these. And to do so, he's trying to take market share. He innovates, he creates, he comes up with new ideas. These new ideas are of value generally to the society. Better shoe wear, more comfortable shoe wear, more fashionable shoe wear. Okay, maybe this guy, in order to beat his new ideas, drops prices. Okay, gets tighter margins. His tighter margins also are of value to the society more generally because it leads to a more efficient business climate and better prices for customers, so the customers can afford, they get more prosperity because they can afford more in terms of shoe wear, etc. So when each of these business participants, according to Adam Smith, participates in a capitalist system thinking about only their own gain, only their own profits, what results, Smith said, is a system that is more prosperous for everyone. What results is a more prosperous overall picture or society. Okay, and I don't have time to explicate all of the meaning of that today. I just wanted to get these ideas out on the board, and next time, or I guess you guys can watch the video, we'll talk a little bit more about the implications of that and whether it's possible, whether and how it's possible to be a Christian within a capitalist system that prioritizes self-centered thinking over thinking of the welfare of others, which is something that obviously Christians are encouraged to do by the New Testament. Okay, are there any questions or comments about any of these ideas? Apologies for moving through a bunch of things quickly today. I'm trying to make up some lost grounds since the first 2 weeks. In the first 2 weeks, it wasn't possible to do all the things that we would normally do if we were just residential full-time.